This is a summary of the federal courtroom proceedings from the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. After months of rumors, leaked court documents, and growing public scrutiny, Sean J. Carter, better known as Jay-Z, entered the courtroom. This time, he wasn't there as a music legend or business mogul. He was simply a man facing serious accusations and standing in support of Diddy as a co-defendant. As Diddy's public image began to fall apart, shocking details about private gatherings became part of official testimony. Jay-Z found himself pulled into the chaos, not by direct involvement, but through association. His name came up in connection with locations he says he was never in, incidents he says never occurred, and people he claims he's never met. But how would he explain himself to the jury, to the press, and to the public? What could he possibly say now that all eyes were on him? This was the moment Jay-Z took the stand. The courtroom had finally quieted down after a tense morning filled with legal arguments. The prosecution was getting ready to present new evidence connected to Cassie Ventura's earlier testimony. Diddy's legal team sat flipping through documents, looking relaxed, maybe even too relaxed, as if nothing could shake them. Then the courtroom doors swung open, not subtly, not quietly, but with purpose. It was the kind of entrance you make when you know the truth is finally about to come to light, no matter how hard others have tried to bury it. Jay-Z walked in wearing a deep navy suit, so precisely tailored it looked like it was built for battle. He kept his eyes straight ahead, not glancing to either side. He didn't acknowledge anyone, not with a nod, not with a glance. There was no entourage, no Beyoncé by his side, no Rock Nation staff in sight. It was just him, an icon walking into a courtroom that never imagined he'd show up. Not like this, not as a witness, not under oath. A wave of surprise swept through the room. People gasped. Some in the gallery instinctively began to rise from their seats. A journalist dropped her pen. Cassie Ventura, seated just behind the prosecution, leaned over to quietly speak with her lawyer. Even the judge lifted her eyebrows, just slightly but noticeably. Diddy turned toward the door, his expression frozen. His eyes locked onto Jay-Z like he was staring at a ghost from his past, someone he thought he'd left behind decades ago. No one had seen this coming, not the media, not the public. Jay-Z had asked to make his statement behind closed doors, but the court denied the request. They wanted everything out in the open. Transparency was the order. Now Jay wasn't stepping up to deliver a verse, he was stepping up to deliver the truth, relying not on rhythm, but on memory. He made his way to the witness stand. He raised his hand and took the oath. The room, packed with federal prosecutors, celebrity reporters, and high-powered lawyers who used to close multi-million-dollar deals over brunch, leaned in, hanging on to every word like it was the start of a leaked track. His voice was steady and composed, but there was tension underneath, like something being held back. "I want to make this clear," he began. "I'm here because staying silent isn't an option anymore." With those words, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted. Because when Sean Carter speaks, not the icon, not the rapper, not the billionaire entrepreneur, but the man behind all of that, it's more than just a statement, it's a reckoning. Jay-Z didn't stall or sidestep. He didn't open with denial. He came with context. And sometimes that's the most powerful and most unsettling thing of all. "Yes, I was invited to Diddy's events, and yes, I showed up. But let me be clear, what I saw and what I later learned were two completely different things." He chose each word with care, speaking slowly, intentionally. His legal team sat frozen, watching every move. Across the room, the defense looked uncertain. Was this helping their case or turning against them? The answer unfolded slowly, piece by piece. "I saw how things were set up. The NDAs, the phones taken at the door, the private rooms behind curtains," he said. "I never stepped into those rooms. I never signed anything. But still," he paused, "I knew something wasn't right." That one sentence sent a ripple through the courtroom. It wasn't just an admission that he had been there. It was an acknowledgement that he'd seen how the whole system worked. The same system others, like Cassie and Dawn Richard, had described in painful detail. Jay-Z turned to face the jury. "You have to understand, there are parties in this industry," he said, And then there are parties. The events I attended, and the ones I eventually chose to walk away from, weren't really parties anymore. They were carefully constructed setups, designed not for enjoyment, but for power and control. When the prosecution asked if he ever saw anything illegal happen, Jay-Z paused before answering. Not directly, he said, but I saw enough to know I didn't want to be part of it. He recalled one party in Miami back in 2015, said to be for Christian Combs's birthday, where things took a strange turn. There were masks, real, full-face masks, he explained. At one point, a man walked by him wearing only leather and high heels. While others laughed, Jay-Z didn't. He could tell that man was frightened. Jay-Z said he left the party early that night. He said he called for a driver instead of waiting for the usual ride because he didn't want his name linked to whatever was happening that night. Then the prosecution showed a photo, a leaked, blurry but verified image, of Jay-Z, Diddy, LeBron James, and Beyoncé in a room with a man wearing a latex mask, kneeling on a velvet pillow. Jay-Z stared at the picture quietly. I saw that moment, he said. They told me it was just performance art. I didn't find it funny. I didn't stick around, he said, then looked directly at Diddy. You knew people trusted you. You used that trust. For the first time, Diddy's jaw dropped. Then Jay-Z's testimony took a sharp turn, from trying to control the damage to completely dismantling it. He described a private conversation with Diddy in late 2018, right after rumors of investigation started spreading. According to Jay-Z, Diddy reached out to warn him. He said, "They're coming for me," Jay-Z told the court. "You have to be careful who you stand beside," Jay-Z said. He told the court he asked Diddy directly, "Did you do something I couldn't forgive or come back from?" Diddy's answer, according to Jay-Z, was chilling. "It's just parties, Jay, just experiences. Nobody gets hurt unless they want to be." Jay-Z's voice faltered for a moment. "That was the last honest conversation we had." He scanned the courtroom as he said it. "After that, I stopped taking his calls," Jay-Z said. He started putting distance between himself and Diddy, skipping parties, pulling out of joint projects, and even telling Roc Nation to keep their name away from whatever was going on. Then the prosecution brought up something new. An email from early 2020 between Jay-Z's lawyers and an anonymous source. The message warned that NDAs from past events could be used as weapons against people who attended, even if they weren't directly involved. Jay-Z nodded and said, "I understood what that meant. They planned to use silence as their defense. I wasn't going to be caught up in that." He closed this part of his testimony with a sentence that made headlines even before the court took a break. "He used to be like a brother to me, but now I see who he really is, and who I almost became by staying too close." The room fell completely silent, and the consequences were only just starting to unfold. Jay-Z leaned forward in the witness chair, hands folded, his voice steady but filled with emotion. The courtroom, already shaken by the swirling allegations and rumors, now felt a shift in energy. He wasn't just another celebrity caught up in a scandal. This was something more personal. He wasn't just a celebrity. He was a husband, a father, and a man fighting to protect everything he'd worked for. "I need to talk about my family," he said, locking eyes with the jury. "Because when my name is dragged through the mud, theirs gets pulled in too." The courtroom fell silent. The jurors leaned forward. Even the reporters stopped typing. Even Diddy, who had been quietly taking notes most of the morning, looked up. Jay-Z spoke about how the accusations had affected Beyoncé and their kids. "Blue Ivy is old enough to read the headlines now," he said. "She came to me and asked what a freak-off was. That's not something any father should have to explain." He went on to describe how, once the lawsuit was filed, reporters started gathering outside their home. Paparazzi waited outside Blue's school. The headlines mixed truth and rumors, turning his life into a constant media battle. "My wife has always stood by me," he said, "but this was something else. It wasn't just business drama or rivalry. It was like a bomb going off right in our family. And the hardest part? It was all based on a false story." Jay-Z then addressed the claim that he and Beyoncé were at the Miami party in 2015. He pulled out flight records. "On that night, we were in Paris," he said. "It was our anniversary. We stayed at the Hotel Plaza Athénée." He presented hotel receipts, photos, video timestamps, and several eyewitness statements. We simply weren't there. The prosecution examined the evidence carefully. The judge asked the clerk to verify the dates. Everything matched perfectly. Jay-Z had the receipts, literally, but he didn't stop there. He criticized the culture of clickbait and unverified gossip that fueled these rumors. When did we stop demanding proof? He challenged the courtroom. When did accusation become conviction? He asked, his voice steady but filled with conviction. He stressed that his reputation wasn't just his own. It was intertwined with his wife's, his children's, and the legacy he had worked decades to build. I've spent years creating something clean, something that uplifts our community. And yet a single headline can smear all of that without a shred of evidence. Beyoncé was referenced several times, but Jay-Z was deliberate. He didn't rely on her fame or status to make his point. He spoke about her as a mother, a woman caught off guard by accusations she never deserved. I'm here to stand up for the truth, he said, and to make sure that no one, no matter how rich or powerful, can hide behind lies. Jay-Z stayed calm, but his voice grew stronger as he addressed the next big accusation, the well-known Miami party at Gloria and Emilio Estefan's house, where several people claim they saw him during Diddy's controversial event. Jay-Z made it clear from the start. He has never been to a party at Gloria Estefan's house, not in Miami or anywhere else. He then showed a series of documents outlining his schedule for that week, backed up by security reports, transportation records, and charity event details. He carefully explained his movements on that day. On the night of the supposed party, he was in Los Angeles attending a charity dinner held by the Sean Carter Foundation at the Peterson Automotive Museum. He shared his speech transcript, the guest list, and even a photo with the mayor as proof. The evidence was undeniable. The court displayed security footage from the museum that clearly recorded Jay-Z arriving and leaving, down to the exact minute. But what struck the courtroom most wasn't just the proof itself. It was how Jay-Z explained the origin of these rumors. He pointed out how vague language in lawsuits and subtle hints can spread false stories. A lie doesn't have to shout to be heard, he said. He said the reason his name kept coming up wasn't because anyone actually saw him involved, but simply because he had been to some of Diddy's events before. Is that how it works now? I went to a brunch once, so that means I'm guilty of everything this guy's accused of? He asked the jury. He explained how the media had taken the story and twisted it far beyond the truth. They published stories saying I was seen somewhere I've never even been. That one false statement sparked dozens of articles, thousands of tweets, and caused damage that can't be undone. Jay-Z's team presented a report revealing how many news sources kept repeating the same lie, without anyone bothering to ask me for my side of the story. Not a single one tried to check the facts. When the judge confirmed the records were accurate, Jay-Z looked at the prosecution and said clearly, if you're going to bring someone into a trial this serious, you need more than rumors and guesses. The last part of his testimony took a darker, almost unbelievable turn as he talked about the flood of conspiracy theories that had appeared since Diddy's trouble started. He shook his head and looked at the jury. I've been called a lot of things in this business, but being called an Illuminati puppet, a master manipulator, or a murderer by association, that's new. He talked about the online chaos, how TikTok videos tried to link him to everyone from Harvey Weinstein to R. Kelly to Jeffrey Epstein. People say where there's smoke, there's fire, he said, but sometimes that smoke is just fog machines and edited videos on YouTube. Jay-Z addressed some of the wild accusations against him. Claims that he was involved in Aaliyah's death, helped plan the deaths of Michael Jackson and Tupac, or paid people off to keep quiet about Diddy's parties. He said not a single one of these claims has any real proof, but they keep getting repeated because they attract attention. Then he showed the court a printed Reddit thread with thousands of upvotes where people were spreading rumors about his supposed close ties with Beyoncé and Diddy. Holding it up, he said, "This is what people call journalism today." Jay-Z went on to explain how these rumors were starting to hurt innocent people. He shared how these rumors have had real consequences. Family members being followed, business partners pulling away, and even receiving death threats because someone online made false connections. Then, surprisingly, he admitted that staying quiet might have made things worse. I stayed quiet at first because I believed the truth would speak for itself. But I guess I didn't realize how quickly lies can spread when they're packaged with flashy videos and dramatic music. He closed by saying, I'm not here to win your approval. I want you to listen carefully, think critically, and insist on real evidence. Because if we don't stop this now, no one will be safe from what comes next. Jay-Z leaned back, having finished his testimony. In a courtroom where rumors had turned into headlines, his words had just changed the game. As the room grew quiet, the lead prosecutor rose to speak. His name had been quietly mentioned for days, an aggressive federal attorney known for challenging even the most confident celebrities. He adjusted his glasses and fixed his gaze on Jay-Z, who stayed calm but clearly attentive. Mr. Carter, the prosecutor began, you claim you were never at Gloria Estefan's house. You've presented logs, photos, and timestamps. That's all convincing, Jay-Z acknowledged with a slow nod. It's the truth. But the prosecutor kept moving slightly as he spoke. You've admitted to attending events hosted by Diddy before, high-profile ones like brunches, fundraisers, award parties? Yes, Jay-Z replied cautiously. Public and industry events, but nothing like what's being claimed here. The prosecutor paused, then leaned forward. Did you ever see anything inappropriate at any of those events? Jay-Z hesitated briefly, just enough for everyone to notice, before replying, No. I saw celebrities networking, music playing, the usual. And you never saw Cassie Ventura at any of these events or witnessed anything that made you uncomfortable. Jay-Z's jaw tightened. Cassie was often there. She was Diddy's partner, but I never saw her upset or in distress. And I definitely never saw anything like what she described in her testimony, Jay-Z said firmly. The prosecutor changed tactics. So, when you hear her claims about coercion, abuse, and these so-called freak-offs, you're saying this comes as a complete surprise to you? I'm saying I never saw any of it, Jay-Z replied with conviction. And if I had, I wouldn't have kept quiet. The prosecutor gave a slow nod. That's what Russell Simmons said as well, the prosecutor added, causing a gasp to ripple through the courtroom. Jay-Z blinked, his calm expression slipping for just a moment. Objection, Jay-Z's lawyer snapped. The judge quickly upheld the objection, but the suggestion hung heavy in the room. The prosecutor pressed on, hinting that Jay-Z's close ties to Diddy meant he might know more than just the music scene. He suggested that Jay-Z might be hiding information, though without proof it was just a tactic. The jury listened closely, some doubtful, others understanding. Before leaving the stand, Jay-Z made his final point clear. I'm not here to defend Diddy. I'm here to defend my own reputation. He added, if I were involved in any of that, or even had a hint of it, I wouldn't be here testifying. I'd be the one on trial. As he stepped down from the stand, he straightened his jacket and looked briefly toward the audience, noticing Beyoncé wasn't there. Even though she was absent, her presence was felt in every glance around the room. He left through a side door, flanked by security, while the courtroom buzzed with whispered conversations. Whispers, shaking heads, and gasps filled the room, some out of disbelief, others feeling vindicated. Reporters furiously typed messages and took notes. Social media exploded instantly. Headlines blazed across screens. Jay-Z breaks, silence under oath. Jay-Z versus prosecution. Jay-Z stands up for Beyoncé and family against Diddy allegations. No one waited for the official verdict. The internet had already made up its mind. But inside the courtroom, a more complex story was playing out. The jury's faces gave nothing away. Juror 4, a middle-aged black woman in a beige pantsuit, wrote steadily in her notepad. Juror 9, a young man with a sharp military haircut, kept staring at the empty witness chair long after Jay-Z had left. The alternate juror sat silently, biting his pen cap, his eyebrows drawn together in thought. In the crowd, a former intern, once known as a troublemaker, was seen wiping tears from her eyes. During recess, she told a reporter, he sounded like he didn't know what was going on, but we all saw him at those events. Maybe he didn't notice what we did, or maybe he chose to look away. Cassie Ventura sat at her lawyer's table, expression unreadable. She stayed still during Jay-Z's testimony, But when he mentioned Blue Ivy and his voice faltered, she glanced up briefly, not with sympathy, but with a look of doubt. Was he defending his family or just himself? Even Diddy, who had stayed calm through most of the trial, started to show signs of tension. His pen tapped faster, and his eyes darted around the room. Jay-Z's denials affected him too, not like a betrayal, but as a warning. The situation was falling apart, and everyone was scrambling to find a way out. The judge called a brief recess. As the courtroom emptied into the hallway, voices buzzed with debate. Some sided with Jay-Z, saying he had proof and was being honest. "What more do you want?" some asked. Others dismissed him as just saving face, part of the system all along. Caught in the middle was the elusive truth. No one really knew, but everyone had an opinion. Back at Roc Nation headquarters, the atmosphere was heavy with tension. Jay-Z's team stayed silent after the testimony. Outside the courthouse, his attorney, Alex Spiro, gave a brief statement. Mr. Carter testified truthfully and courageously. We stand by his integrity, but the world wasn't waiting for legal summaries. Within 12 hours, every major outlet, from TMZ to the New York Times, had dissected his testimony. Some praised his transparency. Others called it calculated damage control. Beyoncé's name trended globally for 36 hours straight. Her publicist declined to comment. Fans were split, some fiercely defending her, others skeptical. Others questioned how deep the couple's connection to Diddy really went. Meanwhile, the prosecution was regrouping. Jay-Z hadn't shattered their case, but he had complicated it. He humanized himself, distanced his family, and redirected the spotlight. But in doing so, he highlighted a bigger problem: the industry's pattern of plausible deniability. The DA's office released a quiet statement. While Mr. Carter's testimony was significant, our investigation remains ongoing and extends beyond any one individual. Translation? This isn't over. And then came the wild card, 50 Cent. Never one to stay quiet, he posted a photo of Jay-Z on the stand with the caption, "Nice performance, but we ain't forgot them brunches, my guy." It went viral instantly. In the days that followed, other celebrities began to reappear. Alicia Keys reposted a quote about truth cutting through silence. Questlove tweeted cryptic emojis, keeping the internet buzzing with speculation. Even Oprah posted a vague story about building from ashes. Jay-Z's reputation had taken a hit, but it hadn't collapsed. His testimony, for better or worse, marked a moment where silence was no longer an option. And in a case full of twists, one truth was clear. The courtroom wasn't just trying Diddy, it was trying an entire era of power, proximity, and protection. Jay-Z had survived the stand, but the real trial, the trial of legacy, was just beginning.